The day my world shattered. At 62, I never imagined starting over like this. My name is James Carter, and I am the father of Emily Carter, my only child, my pride, my joy, the brightest light in my life. I had already endured the loss of my wife years earlier, and Emily had been the anchor that kept me steady. She was the reason I woke each morning with purpose, the reason I believed life still held meaning. But on March 12, 2018, my world collapsed in a way I could never have prepared for. Before we dive in, share your hometown in the comments, and follow the channel for stories that connect us across the world. The day began like any other. I woke in my modest apartment to the faint hum of traffic outside and the smell of coffee drifting from the kitchen. I remember thinking how ordinary it all felt, how unremarkable. I had no idea that by nightfall, the ordinary would be gone forever, replaced by a grief so profound it would carve itself into my very bones. Emily had been admitted to Massachusetts General Hospital 2 days earlier. 34 years old, vibrant, full of life, yet suddenly struck down by pneumonia. Severe, aggressive, complicated by an underlying condition she hadn't even known she had. When the call came, I rushed to the hospital, my heart pounding with dread. The sterile smell of antiseptic hit me the moment I stepped through the sliding doors. It clung to my clothes, my hair, my skin, as though grief itself had a scent. The corridors were lined with posters about hand hygiene and patient safety, but all I saw was the blur of nurses moving quickly, their faces tight with focus. When I reached Emily's room, she was lying in bed, her skin pale, her breathing shallow. Machines surrounded her, beeping rhythmically, indifferent to the storm raging inside me. I took her hand, cold and fragile, and whispered, "I'm here, sweetheart. Dad's right here." Her eyes fluttered open for a moment, and she gave me the faintest smile. "Dad," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Don't cry." But how could I not? My heart was breaking, and the tears came whether I wanted them to or not. I stroked her hair, remembering the little girl who used to run through the yard with ribbons in her hair, laughing at everything and nothing. I remembered her first steps, her first words, the way she used to sing along to the radio in the car. I remembered her graduation, her wedding, the way she looked at Daniel with love in her eyes. Daniel, her husband, stood at the foot of the bed, his arms crossed, his expression unreadable. He didn't move closer, didn't reach for her hand. He simply stood there, as if he were a visitor rather than her partner. I wanted to scream at him, to demand that he show some emotion, but I held my tongue. Emily needed peace, not conflict. The hours dragged on, each one heavier than the last. Doctors came and went, their words clinical, their faces grave. "We're doing everything we can," they said. "She's fighting, but it's very serious." I prayed silently, bargaining with the universe. "Take me instead. Spare her. She has so much life left to live." But the universe was deaf that day. By evening, the doctor entered with a look that told me everything before his words did. His shoulders sagged, his eyes softened, and he spoke in a voice that was both gentle and devastating. "I'm sorry, Mr. Carter. She's gone." The world tilted. My chest tightened, and I couldn't breathe. I clutched Emily's hand, refusing to let go, as if holding on could somehow bring her back. "No," I whispered. "No, no, no." Daniel remained silent, his face a mask. He didn't cry. He didn't reach for me. He simply turned and walked out of the room, leaving me alone with my daughter's lifeless body. I pressed my forehead against hers, whispering through sobs, "I love you, my darling. Always. Always." The machines continued to beep, indifferent to the fact that the person they had been monitoring was no longer there. Nurses moved quietly, respectfully, but I barely noticed. My world had collapsed, and nothing else mattered. Memories flooding back. In those first hours after her death, memories flooded me, unbidden and relentless. I saw her as a newborn, her tiny fingers curling around mine. I saw her as a child, running through the yard with ribbons in her hair, her laughter echoing like music. I saw her as a teenager, determined and full of dreams. I saw her as a bride, radiant in her white dress, looking at Daniel with love in her eyes. And now she was gone, leaving me with only memories and a hollow ache that refused to fade. I spoke to her photo often, whispering words into the silence. "I miss you, darling. I don't know how to go on without you." The loneliness was suffocating, but beneath it, a quiet ember of resilience flickered. I didn't know it then, but Emily had left me more than memories. She had left me hope. That night, back in my apartment, I sat by the window, staring at the city lights. The day had been long, filled with sorrow and emptiness, but it had also been filled with love from friends, from neighbors, from the community that had known Emily. I realized then that grief is not just about loss. It is also about connection, about the way a person's life ripples through others, leaving traces that endure even after they are gone. Emily's death had shown me that she was more than my daughter. She was a light that had touched many lives. And though that light had dimmed, its glow remained in the hearts of those who loved her. I whispered into the night, "Thank you, Emily, for everything." And in that moment, I felt a flicker of peace. The silent husband. Grief has a way of magnifying everything, the smallest gesture, the faintest word, the silence between breaths. In those final days of Emily's life, I found myself watching Daniel, her husband, with a mixture of disbelief and sorrow. He was there, physically present, but emotionally absent. His detachment was like a wall I could not climb, a void I could not fill. I had always hoped that Daniel would be the man to cherish Emily, to protect her, to stand by her side through every storm. When she married him, I gave him my blessing, trusting that he would honor the vows he made. But in the hospital, as Emily fought for her life, I saw a different man, cold, rigid, unreadable. At the hospital, the room was filled with the hum of machines, the rhythmic beeping of monitors, the soft shuffle of nurses' shoes. Emily lay in bed, her chest rising and falling with effort, her skin pale against the white sheets. I sat beside her, holding her hand, whispering words of comfort. Daniel stood at the foot of the bed, arms crossed, his gaze fixed somewhere beyond her. He didn't reach for her hand, didn't brush her hair back, didn't lean close to whisper love into her ear. He simply stood there, as if he were a visitor rather than her husband. I wanted to shake him, to demand that he show some emotion, some sign that he cared. But I held my tongue. Emily needed peace, not conflict. Still, the silence between us was deafening. When Emily's eyes fluttered open, she looked at me, not at him. "Dad," she whispered, her voice weak. "Don't cry." I smiled through tears, stroking her hair. "I'm here, sweetheart. Always." Daniel remained silent. His face was a mask, his posture rigid. I wondered if he was afraid, if grief had frozen him, or if he simply didn't feel what I felt. The moment she passed. By evening, the doctor entered with a look that told me everything before his words did. "I'm sorry, Mr. Carter. She's gone." The world tilted. My chest tightened, and I couldn't breathe. I clutched Emily's hand, refusing to let go. "No," I whispered. "No, no, no." Daniel didn't cry. He didn't reach for me. He didn't even look at Emily. He simply turned and walked out of the room, leaving me alone with my daughter's lifeless body. I pressed my forehead against hers, whispering through sobs, "I love you, my darling. Always." The machines continued to beep, indifferent to the fact that the person they had been monitoring was no longer there. Nurses moved quietly, respectfully, but I barely noticed. My world had collapsed, and nothing else mattered. The funeral preparations. In the days that followed, I moved through grief like a ghost. Funeral arrangements, paperwork, phone calls all blurred together. I sat in the funeral home, staring at the catalog of coffins, unable to comprehend that I was choosing one for my daughter. The funeral director spoke in a soothing voice, but his words felt distant. "This one is very dignified," he said, pointing to a polished mahogany coffin. I nodded mechanically, unable to process. Daniel was there, but his presence was more obligation than comfort. He spoke little, his tone clipped, his eyes cold. When I tried to reach out, he brushed me aside. "We'll see," he muttered when I said we'd get through this together. The funeral. The morning of Emily's funeral dawned gray and heavy. Boston's streets were slick with rain, the sky mirroring my sorrow. I dressed slowly, choosing a black suit that felt too heavy, too final. The funeral home was filled with the scent of lilies and polished wood. Friends and family gathered, their faces solemn. Mrs. Thompson, our old neighbor, approached with tears streaming down her face. "She was such a bright light," she said. Mr. Alvarez placed tulips on the coffin. "She was kind," he said simply. Daniel arrived late, his entrance quiet but commanding. His suit was immaculate, his tie knotted with precision. His face was expressionless, his eyes cold. He stood beside me for a moment, then stepped back, keeping his distance. I glanced at him, searching for some sign of grief, but there was nothing. No tears, no tremor in his voice when he greeted the pastor. Just a rigid posture, as if he were attending a business meeting rather than burying his wife. The pastor spoke of Emily's kindness, her generosity, her laughter. Friends and colleagues shared memories. When it was my turn, I stood slowly, my legs weak. Emily was my everything. I began. From the moment she was born, she filled my life with joy. She taught me more than I ever taught her. And though she's gone, her love remains. It will always remain. The room was silent, save for muffled sobs. I looked at her coffin, my heart breaking anew. "I love you, Emily," I whispered. "Always." Daniel remained unmoved. The burial. At the cemetery, the sky darkened, and a light drizzle began to fall. The coffin was lowered into the ground, the sound of earth hitting would echoing like finality. I stood at the edge, clutching a rose. My hands shook as I dropped it onto the coffin. "Goodbye, my darling," I whispered. "Rest in peace." Daniel stood a few feet away, his face unreadable. He didn't speak, didn't cry, didn't even place a flower. He simply watched, his eyes cold, his posture rigid. I felt a surge of anger then, mingled with grief. How could he be so detached? How could he stand there, unmoved, while the woman he had vowed to love was laid to rest? Back at the funeral home, people gathered for a reception. Tables were laden with food, but I had no appetite. I sat quietly, listening to the murmur of voices, the laughter that occasionally broke through as people shared lighter memories of Emily. Daniel sat in the corner, speaking with a group of men I didn't recognize. His tone was casual, almost businesslike. I watched him, my heart heavy. He seemed untouched by the day's events, as if Emily's death were an inconvenience rather than a tragedy. Mrs. Thompson sat beside me, her hand on mine. "You're strong," she said softly. "Emily would want you to be strong." I nodded, though I didn't feel strong. I felt broken, hollow, adrift. But somewhere deep inside, a small voice whispered that I would survive, that Emily's love would carry me through. Daniel's silence was louder than any words. His detachment was a wound I hadn't anticipated, a cruelty I couldn't understand. As I sat in that rented room later, staring at the city lights, I realized that grief is not just about loss. It is also about the absence of compassion, the void left when those who should stand beside you turn away. Emily was gone, and Daniel had built a wall I could not penetrate, but I would carry her with me, always. Her love remained, woven into the fabric of my being, a light that no silence could extinguish. The last goodbye. Grief is not a single moment, it is 1,000 fragments of time, each one cutting deeper than the last. But there is always one moment that defines it, the instant when the world tilts and nothing will ever be the same again. For me, that moment came in the sterile, humming quiet of a hospital room, when my daughter Emily drew her last breath. The doctor's words. The hours had dragged on endlessly. I sat by Emily's bedside, her hand in mine, whispering words of comfort she was too weak to answer. The machines beeped rhythmically, indifferent to the storm raging inside me. Nurses moved in and out, their faces grave, their voices hushed. Then the doctor entered. His shoulders sagged, his eyes softened, and before he spoke, I knew. "I'm sorry, Mr. Carter," he said gently. "She's gone." The words shattered me. My chest tightened, my breath caught, and the world seemed to tilt on its axis. I clutched Emily's hand, refusing to let go, as if holding on could somehow tether her to this world. "No," I whispered. "No, no, no." Alone with Emily, Daniel, her husband, stood at the foot of the bed, his face unreadable. He didn't cry. He didn't reach for her. He didn't even look at me. He simply turned and walked out of the room, leaving me alone with my daughter's lifeless body. I pressed my forehead against hers, whispering through sobs, "I love you, my darling. Always. Always." The machines continued to beep, indifferent to the fact that the person they had been monitoring was no longer there. Nurses moved quietly, respectfully, but I barely noticed. My world had collapsed, and nothing else mattered. Memories flooding back. In those first hours after her death, memories flooded me, unbidden and relentless. I saw her as a newborn, her tiny fingers curling around mine. I saw her as a child, running through the yard with ribbons in her hair, her laughter echoing like music. I saw her as a teenager, determined and full of dreams. I saw her as a bride, radiant in her white dress, looking at Daniel with love in her eyes. And now she was gone, leaving me with only memories and a hollow ache that refused to fade. The walk out of the hospital. Eventually, a nurse touched my shoulder gently. "Mr. Carter," she said softly, "we need to prepare the room." I nodded numbly, rising slowly, my legs weak beneath me. I kissed Emily's forehead one last time, whispering, "Rest now, sweetheart." Then I walked out of the room, each step heavier than the last. The corridors seemed endless, the fluorescent lights harsh against my tear-stained eyes. People passed me, their faces blurred, their voices distant. The world went on, indifferent to the fact that mine had ended. Outside, the air was cold, biting at my skin. The city bustled around me, cars honking, people rushing, life continuing as if nothing had happened. I stood there, hollow, broken, adrift. The drive home was a blur. I don't remember the streets I took, the lights I passed, the turns I made. All I remember is the silence, the crushing weight of absence. Emily's laughter no longer filled the car. Her voice no longer called me Dad. The seat beside me was empty, and it felt like the world itself had emptied with it. The apartment. Back in my apartment, I sat by the window, staring at the city lights. The room felt too quiet, too empty. I clutched Emily's photo, the one I had taken from her house, and whispered into the darkness, "I miss you, darling. I don't know how to go on without you." The silence that followed was heavy, pressing down on me until I could barely breathe. I cried until my body ached, until exhaustion finally pulled me into restless sleep. That night, I realized that grief is not just about loss. It is also about the absence of connection, the void left when those who should stand beside you turn away. Daniel's silence was louder than any words, his detachment a wound I hadn't anticipated. But even in the depths of sorrow, a quiet ember of resilience flickered. I didn't recognize it then, but it was there, hidden beneath the weight of grief. It was in the way I whispered to Emily's photo, refusing to let her memory fade. It was in the way I forced myself to rise each morning, even when I wanted to stay in bed. It was in the way I carried her love with me, woven into the fabric of my being. Emily was gone, but her love remained. And though the world had shattered, I would carry her with me, always. Funeral preparations. Grief is not only about tears, it is about paperwork, choices, and the cruel practicality of death. In the days after Emily passed, I found myself thrust into a world of logistics I could barely comprehend. While my heart was shattered, the world demanded decisions, coffins, flowers, schedules, and signatures. It was as if grief had to be dressed in orderliness, as if sorrow could be contained in forms and catalogs. The funeral home. I remember walking into the funeral home on Tremont Street, its stone facade weathered by decades of sorrow. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of lilies and polished wood. The funeral director greeted me with a practiced gentleness, his voice low, his manner calm. He had seen countless families broken by loss, and his words were meant to soothe. But to me, they felt distant, hollow. "Mr. Carter," he said softly, "I'm very sorry for your loss. Let's sit down and discuss the arrangements." I nodded numbly, following him into a quiet office. The walls were lined with books and framed certificates, but all I saw was the catalog he placed before me, a glossy binder filled with photographs of coffins. Choosing a coffin, I stared at the pages, unable to comprehend. Each coffin was described in detail: mahogany, oak, cherry wood, polished finishes, velvet linings. Words like dignified and elegant leapt from the page, but they meant nothing to me. How could I choose a box for my daughter? How could I reduce her vibrant life to wood and fabric? The funeral director pointed to one. "This one is very dignified," he said, his tone professional. I nodded mechanically, my mind fogged. Dignity seemed irrelevant. Emily had been full of laughter, light, and love. No coffin could capture that. I closed my eyes, remembering her smile, her voice, the way she used to tease me about my old-fashioned habits. "Dad," she would say, "you're stuck in the past." And now, the past was all I had. Finally, I chose the polished mahogany coffin, not because it was dignified, not because it was elegant, but because I had to choose something. The act of choosing felt like betrayal, like admitting she was truly gone. Flowers and music. Next came the flowers. White roses, lilies, tulips. The funeral director listed them as though they were items on a menu. I thought of Emily's love for tulips, how she used to plant them in the garden each spring. Tulips, I said quietly. She loved tulips. Then the music. Hymns, classical pieces, recorded songs. I thought of her favorite melodies, the way she used to sing along to the radio. I chose Amazing Grace, not because it was her favorite, but because it was mine. It was a song of sorrow and hope, a song that spoke of redemption in the face of loss. The guest list. The funeral director asked about guests. Family, friends, colleagues. I gave him names, though each one felt like a stab to the heart. Each name was a reminder that Emily had touched lives beyond mine, that her absence would ripple through the world. Mrs. Thompson, our old neighbor. Mr. Alvarez, who had lived across the street. Sarah, her college friend. James, her colleague. Each one carried a piece of her, a memory, a story. Daniel's presence. Daniel sat beside me during the meeting, his posture rigid, his face expressionless. He spoke little, his tone clipped. When I tried to reach out, he brushed me aside. "We'll see," he muttered when I said we'd get through this together. His detachment was a wound I hadn't anticipated. While I clung to memories, he seemed untouched, as though the funeral were an obligation rather than a farewell. The weight of decisions. By the time the meeting ended, I felt drained, hollow. The funeral director handed me a stack of papers to sign, each one a confirmation of death. I signed them mechanically, my hand trembling. Each signature felt like a nail in the coffin, a finality I couldn't escape. As I left the funeral home, the gray sky mirrored my sorrow. The streets of Boston bustled with life cars honking, people rushing, children laughing. The world went on, indifferent to my grief. That night, back in my apartment, I sat by the window, staring at the city lights. The day had been filled with choices, each one heavier than the last. Coffins, flowers, music, guests, practicalities that masked the rawness of loss. I realized then that grief is not just about tears. It is about the cruel necessity of decisions, the way the world demands order even in the face of chaos. It is about the weight of finality, the acknowledgement that life has ended. Emily was gone, and I had chosen the box that would hold her, the flowers that would adorn her, the music that would play in her honor. Each choice felt like betrayal, but each one was also an act of love. I whispered into the night, "I hope I chose well, Emily. I hope you know how much I love you." And in that moment, I felt a flicker of peace, fragile but real. The funeral in Boston. The morning of Emily's funeral dawned gray and heavy, as if the sky itself mourned with me. Boston's streets were slick with rain from the night before, and the air carried that damp chill that seeps into your bones. I rose early, though I hadn't slept much. My body felt hollow, my mind fogged with grief, but I knew I had to face the day. Dressing for farewell, I dressed slowly, choosing a black suit that had hung in my closet for years, reserved for occasions I had hoped would never come. My hands trembled as I pinned a small silver tie clip to my collar, a gift from Emily on Father's Day when she was just 12. "So you'll always look sharp, Dad," she had said back then, her eyes bright with innocence. Now, that tie clip felt like a fragile tether to her memory. As I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized the man staring back. His eyes were red, his face lined with sorrow, his shoulders heavy with grief. I whispered to my reflection, "Be strong for her. Just be strong." The funeral home. The funeral home was a stately old building on Tremont Street, its stone facade weathered by decades of sorrow. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of lilies and polished wood. The soft murmur of voices filled the space, punctuated by the occasional sob. I walked into the chapel, my heart pounding. At the front stood Emily's coffin, polished mahogany, adorned with white roses. My knees nearly buckled at the sight. I forced myself forward, each step heavier than the last, until I stood beside her. My hand hovered over the coffin, aching to touch, to connect, but I hesitated. "Emily," I whispered, my voice breaking. "I don't know how to do this without you." The gathering. Friends and family began to arrive, their faces solemn, their eyes filled with sympathy. Some hugged me tightly, whispering words of comfort. Others simply held my hand, their silence more powerful than any platitude. Mrs. Thompson, our neighbor from Emily's childhood, approached with tears streaming down her face. "She was such a bright light," she said, clutching my hands. "I remember her running through the yard, always laughing. I can't believe she's gone." I nodded, unable to speak. Memories flooded me, Emily chasing butterflies, her hair flying in the wind, her laughter echoing like music. Mr. Alvarez, who had lived across the street for years, placed a bouquet of tulips on the coffin. "She was kind," he said simply. "Always kind." Their words were a balm, but also a reminder of what I had lost. Emily wasn't just my daughter, she was a part of the community, a thread woven into the fabric of many lives. Daniel's presence. Daniel arrived late, his entrance quiet but commanding. He wore a perfectly tailored black suit, his tie knotted with precision. His face was expressionless, his eyes cold. He walked straight to the front, stood beside me for a moment, then stepped back, keeping his distance. I glanced at him, searching for some sign of grief, some crack in his armor. But there was nothing. No tears, no tremor in his voice when he greeted the pastor. Just a rigid posture, as if he were attending a business meeting rather than burying his wife. I wanted to reach out, to bridge the gap between us. "Daniel," I whispered, "we'll get through this together." He looked at me briefly, his gaze sharp, almost irritated. "We'll see," he muttered before turning away. The words stung. In that moment, I realized that I was alone in my grief. The man who should have shared it with me had built a wall I could not penetrate. The service. The pastor began the service, his voice gentle, weaving scripture and comfort into the air. He spoke of Emily's kindness, her generosity, her laughter that could light up a room. He invited others to share memories, and one by one, people stood to speak. Her college friend, Sarah, recalled late-night study sessions and Emily's unwavering support. "She was the one who kept us all sane," Sarah said, her voice trembling. "She believed in me when I didn't believe in myself." Her colleague from work, James, spoke of her dedication and warmth. "She wasn't just good at her job," he said. "She made everyone feel valued. She had a way of making you believe you mattered." I listened, tears streaming down my face, as story after story painted a portrait of the woman I had raised. She was more than my daughter, she was a force of love and light in the world. When it was my turn, I stood slowly, my legs weak. I held onto the podium, my voice shaking. "Emily was my everything," I began. "From the moment she was born, she filled my life with joy. She was kind, compassionate, and strong. She taught me more than I ever taught her. And though she's gone, her love remains. It will always remain." The room was silent, save for the sound of muffled sobs. I looked at her coffin, my heart breaking anew. "I love you, Emily," I whispered. "Always." The burial. After the service, we moved to the cemetery. The sky had darkened, and a light drizzle began to fall, as if the heavens themselves wept. The coffin was lowered into the ground, the sound of earth hitting would echoing like finality. I stood at the edge, clutching a rose. My hands shook as I dropped it onto the coffin. "Goodbye, my darling," I whispered. "Rest in peace." Daniel stood a few feet away, his face still unreadable. He didn't speak, didn't cry, didn't even place a flower. He simply watched, his eyes cold, his posture rigid. I felt a surge of anger then, mingled with grief. How could he be so detached? How could he stand there, unmoved, while the woman he had vowed to love was laid to rest? The reception. Back at the funeral home, people gathered for a reception. Tables were laden with food, but I had no appetite. I sat quietly, listening to the murmur of voices, the laughter that occasionally broke through as people shared lighter memories of Emily. Daniel sat in the corner, speaking with a group of men I didn't recognize. His tone was casual, almost businesslike. I watched him, my heart heavy. He seemed untouched by the day's events, as if Emily's death were an inconvenience rather than a tragedy. Mrs. Thompson sat beside me, her hand on mine. "You're strong," she said softly. "Emily would want you to be strong." I nodded, though I didn't feel strong. I felt broken, hollow, adrift. But somewhere deep inside, a small voice whispered that I would survive, that Emily's love would carry me through. That night, back in my rented room, I sat by the window, staring at the city lights. The day had been long, filled with sorrow and emptiness, but it had also been filled with love from friends, from neighbors, from the community that had known Emily. I realized then that grief is not just about loss. It is also about connection, about the way a person's life ripples through others, leaving traces that endure even after they are gone. Emily's funeral had shown me that she was more than my daughter. She was a light that had touched many lives. And though that light had dimmed, its glow remained in the hearts of those who loved her. I whispered into the night, "Thank you, Emily, for everything." And in that moment, I felt a flicker of peace. Daniel's coldness. Grief is a storm, unpredictable and consuming. Some people weep openly, their sorrow spilling into every word and gesture. Others retreat inward, silent and withdrawn. But Daniel's grief, or rather, his lack of it, was something else entirely. It was not silence born of pain. It was detachment, a coldness that chilled me more than the winter air outside the cemetery gates. At the funeral, I had expected Daniel to falter at least once during the funeral, to shed a tear, to let his voice tremble, to show some crack in the armor he wore so tightly. But he remained rigid, his face expressionless, his posture immaculate. He arrived late, his suit perfectly tailored, his tie knotted with precision. He greeted the pastor with the same tone he might use in a business meeting, clipped and formal. When I whispered, "Daniel, we'll get through this together," he looked at me briefly, his gaze sharp, almost irritated. "We'll see," he muttered before turning away. Those two words echoed in my mind long after the service ended. "We'll see." Not "we will," not "we must," not even "I'll try." Just a dismissal, a refusal to share the burden of grief. At the burial, the drizzle fell softly as Emily's coffin was lowered into the ground. I dropped a rose onto the polished wood, whispering, "Goodbye, my darling. Rest in peace." My hands shook, my heart broke anew. Daniel stood a few feet away, his face unreadable. He didn't speak, didn't cry, didn't even place a flower. He simply watched, his eyes cold, his posture rigid. I felt anger surge within me, mingled with sorrow. How could he stand there, unmoved, while the woman he had vowed to love was laid to rest? How could he remain untouched, as if her death were nothing more than a minor inconvenience? The reception. Back at the funeral home, people gathered for a reception. Tables were laden with food, but I had no appetite. I sat quietly, listening to the murmur of voices, the laughter that occasionally broke through as people shared lighter memories of Emily. Daniel sat in the corner, speaking with a group of men I didn't recognize. His tone was casual, almost businesslike. He seemed untouched by the day's events, as if Emily's death were a matter of scheduling rather than sorrow. I watched him, my heart heavy. He had been Emily's husband, the man she had chosen to share her life with. And yet, in the moment when grief should have united us, he seemed determined to remain apart. In the days after, the days following the funeral were a blur of exhaustion and sorrow. I moved through them like a ghost, clinging to memories of Emily, whispering to her photo, writing letters she would never read. Daniel, meanwhile, carried on with a cold efficiency. He returned to work almost immediately, his routine uninterrupted. He spoke little to me, his words clipped, his tone distant. When I tried to reach out, he brushed me aside. One evening, I found him in his study, typing at his computer. "Daniel," I said softly, "I know we're both hurting. Maybe we can help each other through this." He didn't look up. "I don't need help," he said flatly. "And neither do you. You'll manage." The words stung. I wanted to shout, to demand that he show some compassion, but I held my tongue. His heart was closed, and no amount of pleading could open it. I spent long nights staring at the ceiling, wondering about the man my daughter had married. Had he always been this cold? Had Emily seen something in him that I could not? Or had grief revealed a truth she had never known? I remembered their wedding day, the way Emily had looked at him with love in her eyes. She had believed in him, trusted him, chosen him. And now, he stood unmoved at her grave, indifferent to her memory. It was a cruelty I could not understand. The father's anguish. As a father, I wanted to protect Emily even in death. I wanted to shield her memory from indifference, to honor her with love and sorrow. But Daniel's coldness felt like a betrayal, a wound deeper than any I had anticipated. I whispered to her photo, "I don't understand him, Emily. I don't understand how he can be so cold. You deserve better. You deserved love, even in death." The silence that followed was heavy, pressing down on me until I could barely breathe. Daniel's coldness was not just a personal wound, it was a reminder of the fragility of human connection. We expect love to endure, to carry us through grief, to bind us together in sorrow. But sometimes, love falters. Sometimes, it disappears entirely. Emily was gone, and Daniel had built a wall I could not penetrate. But I would carry her with me, always. Her love remained, woven into the fabric of my being, a light that no coldness could extinguish. The burial. There are moments in life when the world feels unbearably heavy, when each breath is a struggle, and each step feels like walking through quicksand. The burial of my daughter was one of those moments. It was the day when grief became tangible, when sorrow took on the weight of earth and stone. The cemetery. The cemetery lay on the outskirts of Boston, a place where generations of families had been laid to rest. Its iron gates creaked as they opened, the sound echoing like a lament. The sky was overcast, the drizzle persistent, as though the heavens themselves wept. Rows of headstones stretched across the damp grass, each one a marker of a life once lived. Some were adorned with flowers, others with weathered inscriptions barely legible. I had walked through cemeteries before, but never with the knowledge that my own child would soon rest beneath the soil. The procession. The funeral procession moved slowly, the hearse leading the way, followed by a line of cars. I sat in the back seat, staring out the window, my hands clenched tightly in my lap. The city blurred past, its noise muted, its life indifferent to my grief. When we arrived, pallbearers lifted Emily's coffin from the hearse. The polished mahogany gleamed even under the gray sky, adorned with white roses that seemed too pure, too fragile for the weight they carried. I followed behind, my legs weak, my heart heavy. The graveside. At the graveside, a canopy had been erected to shield us from the drizzle. Chairs were arranged neatly, though I barely noticed them. My eyes were fixed on the open grave, a dark wound in the earth waiting to swallow my daughter. The pastor spoke softly, his words weaving scripture and comfort into the air. He spoke of eternal life, of peace beyond sorrow, of love that endures even in death. His voice was gentle, but to me, it felt distant, like a melody played in another room. I stood at the edge of the grave, clutching a rose. My hands trembled, my breath shallow. I whispered, "Goodbye, my darling. Rest in peace." The lowering. The coffin was lowered slowly, the ropes creaking under its weight. The sound of wood descending into earth was unbearable, each inch a reminder of finality. I felt my knees weaken, my chest tighten. Tears blurred my vision, but I refused to look away. The pastor invited us to place flowers on the coffin. One by one, people stepped forward, dropping roses, tulips, lilies. Each flower was a symbol of love, a farewell whispered in silence. When my turn came, I dropped the rose I held, watching it land softly on the polished wood. "I love you, Emily," I whispered. "Always." Daniel's silence. Daniel stood a few feet away, his face unreadable. He didn't cry, didn't speak, didn't even place a flower. He simply watched, his eyes cold, his posture rigid. I felt anger surge within me, mingled with grief. How could he stand there, unmoved, while the woman he had vowed to love was laid to rest? How could he remain untouched, as if her death were nothing more than a minor inconvenience? His silence was louder than any words, his detachment a wound deeper than any I had anticipated. The earth. After the coffin was lowered, the grave diggers began to shovel earth into the grave. The sound of soil hitting wood echoed like finality, each thud a reminder that Emily was gone. I flinched with every sound, my heart breaking anew. I wanted to climb into the grave, to hold her one last time, to shield her from the cold earth, but I knew I couldn't. I had to let go, though every fiber of my being resisted. The departure. When the grave was filled, people began to leave, their faces solemn, their steps slow. Some hugged me, whispering words of comfort. Others simply touched my arm, their silence more powerful than any platitude. I remained at the graveside, staring at the mound of earth, unable to move. The drizzle soaked my suit, the cold seeped into my bones, but I didn't care. My daughter was beneath that soil, and I couldn't bear to leave her. Finally, Mrs. Thompson placed a hand on my shoulder. "James," she said softly, "she's at peace now. You need to rest." I nodded, though I didn't feel peace. I felt broken, hollow, adrift, but I forced myself to turn away, each step heavier than the last. That night, back in my rented room, I sat by the window, staring at the city lights. The day had been long, filled with sorrow and emptiness, but it had also been filled with love from friends, from neighbors, from the community that had known Emily. I realized then that grief is not just about loss. It is also about connection, about the way a person's life ripples through others, leaving traces that endure even after they are gone. Emily's burial had shown me that she was more than my daughter. She was a light that had touched many lives. And though that light had dimmed, its glow remained in the hearts of those who loved her. I whispered into the night, "Rest well, Emily. I will carry you with me, always." And in that moment, I felt a flicker of peace, fragile but real. The reception. Grief does not end at the graveside. It lingers, follows you into rooms filled with people, into conversations meant to comfort, into the quiet corners where silence feels heavier than words. After Emily's burial, we returned to the funeral home for the reception, a gathering meant to honor her life, to share memories, to remind ourselves that even in sorrow, community endures. The atmosphere. The reception hall was warm compared to the drizzle outside, but the air inside carried its own weight. Tables were laden with food sandwiches, pastries, coffee, tea, but I had no appetite. The scent of lilies still clung to my clothes, mingling with the aroma of brewed coffee, creating a strange mixture of sweetness and bitterness. People spoke in hushed tones, their voices weaving together into a tapestry of sorrow and remembrance. Laughter occasionally broke through, not out of joy, but out of the human need to recall lighter moments, to balance grief with memory. I sat quietly, my hands folded in my lap, listening more than speaking. Every word, every story, every tear was a reminder of Emily's presence in the lives of others. Story shared. Sarah, Emily's college friend, approached me with a gentle smile. "Mr. Carter," she said softly, "I want you to know how much Emily meant to me. She was the one who kept me grounded during those long nights of studying. She believed in me when I didn't believe in myself." Her words brought tears to my eyes. "She was always like that," I whispered. "She had a way of seeing the best in people." James, her colleague, shared his own memory. "She wasn't just good at her job," he said. "She made everyone feel valued. She had a way of making you believe you mattered." Others spoke of her kindness, her laughter, her generosity. Each story painted a portrait of the woman I had raised, a mosaic of love and light. Daniel's detachment. While others shared memories, Daniel sat in the corner, speaking with a group of men I didn't recognize. His tone was casual, almost businesslike, as though the day's events were nothing more than a formality. He didn't join in the stories, didn't offer his own memories, didn't shed a tear. I watched him, my heart heavy. He had been Emily's husband, the man she had chosen to share her life with. And yet, in the moment when grief should have united us, he seemed determined to remain apart. His detachment was a wound deeper than any I had anticipated. It was as if he had already moved on, as if Emily's death had been an inconvenience rather than a tragedy. Comfort from neighbors. Mrs. Thompson sat beside me, her hand on mine. "You're strong," she said softly. "Emily would want you to be strong." I nodded, though I didn't feel strong. I felt broken, hollow, adrift. But her words were a balm, a reminder that I was not entirely alone. Mr. Alvarez approached with a gentle smile. "She was kind," he said simply. "Always kind." His words echoed in my mind, a testament to the love Emily had shared with the world. The contrast. The reception was a study in contrasts. On one side, friends and neighbors shared memories, their voices filled with love and sorrow. On the other, Daniel sat detached, his tone casual, his demeanor cold. I felt torn between gratitude for the community that surrounded me and anger at the man who refused to grieve. It was a reminder that grief is not universal, that people mourn in different ways or not at all. As the reception drew to a close, I sat quietly, listening to the murmur of voices, the laughter that occasionally broke through. I realized that grief is not just about loss. It is also about connection, about the way a person's life ripples through others, leaving traces that endure even after they are gone. Emily's reception had shown me that she was more than my daughter. She was a light that had touched many lives. And though that light had dimmed, its glow remained in the hearts of those who loved her. That night, back in my rented room, I sat by the window, staring at the city lights. The day had been long, filled with sorrow and emptiness, but it had also been filled with love from friends, from neighbors, from the community that had known Emily. I whispered into the night, "Thank you, Emily, for everything." And in that moment, I felt a flicker of peace, fragile but real. Memories of Emily. Grief has a cruel way of turning the past into both a sanctuary and a prison. In the weeks after Emily's funeral, I found myself living more in memory than in the present. The silence of my rented room pressed down on me. But within that silence, her laughter echoed, her voice whispered, her presence lingered. Childhood laughter. I remember the day she was born as vividly as if it were yesterday. The hospital room was filled with light, and when the nurse placed her in my arms, I felt a surge of love so powerful it nearly knocked me off my feet. Her tiny fingers curled around mine, her eyes wide and curious, as if she already knew she had me wrapped around her little hand. As she grew, our home became a stage for her laughter. She would run through the yard with ribbons in her hair, chasing butterflies, her giggles carrying through the air like music. I would sit on the porch, watching her, marveling at the joy she brought into the world. There was one summer afternoon I'll never forget. She had found a stray kitten in the garden, its fur matted, its eyes wide with fear. "Dad, we have to help him," she insisted, her voice filled with determination. We took the kitten in, and from that day forward, Emily showed me what compassion truly meant. Teenage dreams. Her teenage years were filled with ambition and determination. She was stubborn, just like me, but her stubbornness was fueled by dreams. She wanted to change the world, to make it kinder, brighter, better. I remember late nights at the kitchen table, her textbooks spread out, her pen moving furiously across the pages. "Dad," she would say, "I want to do something that matters." And she did. She poured herself into her studies, into her friendships, into every part of her life. There were arguments, of course. She wanted independence, freedom, the chance to make her own choices. I worried, as fathers do, but I learned to trust her. She was strong, capable, wise beyond her years. Milestones. Her graduation was one of the proudest days of my life. I stood in the crowd, watching her walk across the stage, her cap and gown a symbol of her hard work and determination. When she received her diploma, she looked out into the audience, found me, and smiled. That smile was a gift, a reminder that I had been part of her journey. Her wedding was another milestone, though bittersweet. She looked radiant in her white dress, her eyes filled with love as she gazed at Daniel. I gave her away with trembling hands, whispering, "Take care of her." I believed he would. I believed he loved her. Everyday moments. But it wasn't just the milestones that defined her life. It was the everyday moments, the mornings we shared coffee, the evenings we spent watching movies, the conversations that flowed easily between us. She loved to sing along to the radio in the car, her voice filling the space with joy. She loved to cook, experimenting with recipes, laughing when they didn't turn out quite right. She loved to read, her books filled with notes and doodles, her thoughts spilling onto the margins. One of my favorite memories is of a rainy afternoon when we sat together, reading side by side. She looked up at me suddenly and said, "Dad, you're my best friend." Those words have stayed with me, a reminder of the bond we shared. The hospital. And then there were the memories I wished I could forget. The hospital, the machines, the sterile smell of antiseptic. The way her hand felt in mine, cold and fragile. The way her voice whispered, "Dad, don't cry." Those memories haunt me, but they are part of her story, part of mine. They remind me of the love we shared, even in the face of death. As I sat in my rented room, clutching her photo, I realized that memories are both a gift and a burden. They keep her alive in my heart, but they also remind me of what I have lost. I whispered to her photo, "I miss you, Emily. I don't know how to live without you, but I will carry you with me, always." Memories of Emily are woven into the fabric of my being. They are the threads that hold me together, even as grief threatens to tear me apart. She was my daughter, my joy, my light. And though she is gone, her love remains. I will carry her with me, always. The first blow. Grief is heavy enough on its own, but cruelty adds a weight that can crush a man entirely. I thought the days after Emily's funeral would be filled with quiet mourning, with shared sorrow between myself and Daniel. We had both lost her, after all. Surely, I believed, we could find comfort in each other's presence. But I was wrong. The living room. It was a week after the funeral. I sat in the living room of Emily's house, clutching a framed photo of her. She was smiling in the picture, her eyes bright, her hair catching the sunlight. I traced her face with my finger, whispering, "I miss you, darling." The room was filled with her presence. Her books lined the shelves, her scarves folded neatly in the drawer, her favorite mug resting on the counter. Every corner carried her spirit, every shadow whispered her name. I thought Daniel and I would grieve together here, that we would honor her memory side by side. But the sound of footsteps broke the silence. Daniel entered the room, his expression cold, his posture rigid. He stood in the doorway, arms crossed, his eyes fixed on me with a look that sent a chill down my spine. The confrontation. "James," he said, his voice sharp, devoid of warmth. "We need to talk." I looked up, startled. "Of course," I replied softly, hoping for some semblance of connection. He took a deep breath, his jaw tightening. "You need to leave. This is my house now." The words hit me like a physical blow. I blinked, unable to comprehend. "Leave?" I whispered. "Daniel, this was Emily's home. My home too. How can you say that?" He shrugged, his face expressionless. "She's gone. And with her gone, you don't belong here anymore. I don't owe you anything." My heart cracked anew. I stared at him, searching for some trace of compassion, but there was none. His eyes were cold, his tone final. "My plea." I rose slowly, clutching the photo to my chest. "Daniel, please," I begged. "I've lost my daughter. I have nowhere else to go. This house is filled with her memories. Don't take that from me." He shook his head, his lips curling into a faint sneer. "Memories won't pay the bills. This is my house now. Pack your things. Tomorrow." Tears blurred my vision. "She would never want this," I whispered. "She loved me. She wanted me here." Daniel's expression hardened. "She's not here to say otherwise, is she?" The cruelty of his words cut deeper than any knife. I felt my knees weaken, my breath shallow. I clutched the photo tighter, as if Emily herself could shield me from his heartlessness. The silence. For a moment, the room was silent, save for the sound of my ragged breathing. Daniel stood unmoved, his arms crossed, his gaze unwavering. I realized then that there was no reasoning with him. His mind was made up, his heart closed. I sank back onto the sofa, my body trembling. "Why are you doing this?" I asked, my voice barely audible. He didn't answer. He simply turned and walked away, leaving me alone in the silence. Packing memories. That night, I wandered through the house, touching everything Emily had left behind. Her books, her dresses, her favorite mug. Every item was a memory, a piece of her life, a fragment of her love. I wanted to take it all, to carry her with me, but I knew Daniel would never allow it. I pulled out a small suitcase, the same one I had used years ago when Emily and I took a trip to Cape Cod. I ran my fingers over the worn leather handle, remembering how she had teased me for carrying something so old-fashioned. I folded my clothes slowly, deliberately, dragging out the process as if delaying the inevitable could somehow change the outcome. Tears streamed down my face, blurring my vision. "I'm sorry, Emily," I whispered. "I tried to stay, but he doesn't want me here." When I zipped the suitcase shut, it felt like sealing away a part of my soul. Leaving. The next morning, I stood at the door, suitcase in hand. I turned back one last time, my eyes sweeping over the living room. The photographs, the echoes of Emily's laughter. "This was our home," I whispered, "but he's taken it from me." I stepped outside, the cold Boston air biting at my skin. My footsteps were heavy, each one pulling me further from the life I had built with my daughter. Daniel watched from the window, his expression unreadable. He didn't wave, didn't speak, didn't show a flicker of remorse. He simply watched as I walked away, his presence a shadow I could not escape. As I made my way to the small rented room that would become my refuge, I felt hollow, broken, adrift. I had lost my daughter, and now I had lost her home. But somewhere deep inside, a quiet ember of resilience flickered. I didn't know it then, but Emily had left me more than memories. She had left me hope. And though Daniel had delivered the first blow, the battle was not yet over. Packing memories. Grief is not only about loss, it is about the small rituals that follow, the quiet acts that force you to confront absence. For me, packing my belongings from Emily's house was one of the most excruciating tasks I have ever faced. It was not just about folding clothes or filling a suitcase. It was about deciding which fragments of her life I could carry with me and which I had to leave behind. The silence of the house. That night, after Daniel's cruel demand, I wandered through Emily's house like a ghost. The silence was suffocating, broken only by the creak of the floorboards beneath my feet. Every corner, every object, every shadow carried her presence. It was as if the house itself whispered her name, reminding me of what I had lost. Daniel had made himself scarce, retreating to his study. I could hear the faint clatter of his keyboard, the sound of him working as though nothing had changed, as though his wife hadn't just been buried. His indifference was a knife twisting deeper into my grief. I stood in the living room, clutching a small suitcase. It felt absurd, almost insulting, to reduce my life here to a single bag. But Daniel's words echoed in my mind. Pack your things. Tomorrow. The closet. I began in the bedroom I had been staying in. The closet held my clothes, neatly hung, though I had barely touched them in the past weeks. Grief had stripped me of routine, of care. I pulled each garment from the hanger slowly, folding them with trembling hands. As I worked, my eyes drifted to Emily's closet. Her dresses still hung there, colorful and vibrant, each one a reflection of her spirit. I reached out, brushing the fabric of a floral dress she had worn to a summer picnic. I remembered her laughter that day, the way the sunlight caught her hair. Tears blurred my vision. I can't leave you here, I whispered. But I knew Daniel would never allow me to take her things. To him, they were possessions, not memories. I closed the closet door gently, as if sealing away a part of her. The bookshelf. In the living room, Emily's bookshelf stood tall, filled with novels, poetry, and cookbooks. I ran my fingers along the spines, recalling the nights we had spent reading together. She had loved Jane Austen, often quoting lines from Pride and Prejudice with a mischievous smile. I pulled one book from the shelf, opening it to find her handwriting in the margins. Notes, thoughts, little doodles. My heart ached at the sight. I wanted to take them all, to carry her words with me. But the suitcase was small, and Daniel's shadow loomed large. I chose one book, her favorite, Persuasion, and slipped it into my bag. It was a piece of her I could keep, a fragment of her soul. The kitchen. The kitchen was alive with memories. The scent of her cooking seemed to linger, though the stove was cold. I opened the cabinets, seeing her mugs lined neatly. One in particular caught my eye, a white mug with a chipped rim. It had been her favorite, despite its imperfection. I held it in my hands, remembering the mornings we had shared coffee, the conversations that had flowed easily. This one, I whispered, this one comes with me. I wrapped it carefully in a scarf and placed it in the suitcase. The photographs. Photographs lined the walls, capturing moments of joy and love. Emily's graduation, her wedding, holidays spent together. I paused at one photo in particular, Emily and me, standing in the garden, our arms around each other, our smiles radiant. I lifted it from the wall, holding it close. I need this, I said softly. Daniel's footsteps echoed down the hall. I froze, clutching the photo to my chest. He appeared in the doorway, his eyes narrowing. What are you doing? I'm taking this, I replied firmly. It's mine as much as hers. He stared at me for a moment, then shrugged. Fine, but don't take too much. This is my house now. His words burned, but I held the photo tighter. The suitcase. By midnight, the suitcase was nearly full. Clothes, a book, a mug, a photo. Small things, but each one heavy with meaning. I zipped it shut, the sound final, like closing a chapter of my life. I sat on the bed, staring at the suitcase. It felt like a coffin for my memories, a container too small to hold the love I carried for Emily. Tears streamed down my face. I'm sorry, Emily, I whispered. I tried to stay, but he doesn't want me here. Leaving. The next morning, I stood at the door, suitcase in hand. The air was cold, biting at my skin. I turned back one last time, my eyes sweeping over the living room. The photographs, the echoes of Emily's laughter. This was our home, I whispered, but he's taken it from me. I stepped outside, my footsteps heavy, each one pulling me further from the life I had built with my daughter. Daniel watched from the window, his expression unreadable. He didn't wave, didn't speak, didn't show a flicker of remorse. He simply watched as I walked away, his presence a shadow I could not escape. As I made my way to the small rented room that would become my refuge, I felt hollow, broken, adrift. I had lost my daughter, and now I had lost her home. But somewhere deep inside, a quiet ember of resilience flickered. I didn't know it then, but Emily had left me more than memories. She had left me hope, and though Daniel had forced me out, the battle was not yet over. Leaving the house. There are moments when the act of walking away feels like betrayal. Leaving Emily's home was one of those moments. It wasn't just a house, it was the place where her laughter had echoed, where her dreams had taken shape, where her life had unfolded in countless small, beautiful ways. To step outside with a suitcase in hand felt like abandoning her, even though I knew she was gone. The final morning. The morning I left dawned cold and gray. The Boston air bit at my skin as I stood in the doorway, suitcase in hand. I had packed the night before clothes, her favorite book Persuasion, the chipped mug she loved, a photo of us together. Small things, but each one heavy with meaning. I turned back one last time, my eyes sweeping over the living room. The photographs on the walls, the books on the shelves, the echoes of Emily's laughter. "This was our home," I whispered, "but he's taken it from me." Daniel watched from the window, his expression unreadable. He didn't wave, didn't speak, didn't show a flicker of remorse. He simply watched as I walked away, his presence a shadow I could not escape. The walk away. Each step felt heavier than the last. My suitcase dragged behind me, its wheels clattering against the pavement. The sound echoed in my ears, a cruel reminder of finality. I thought of the times Emily and I had walked together through parks, along city streets, down the aisles of grocery stores. Her hand in mine when she was little, her laughter filling the air when she was older. Now, my footsteps were solitary, my path empty. I wanted to turn back, to run inside, to cling to the walls that held her memory. But I knew Daniel would not allow it. His words echoed in my mind. "Pack your things. Tomorrow." The taxi ride. I hailed a taxi, the driver glancing at me with polite indifference. He loaded my suitcase into the trunk, and I slid into the back seat. The city blurred past as we drove, its noise muted, its life indifferent to my grief. I stared out the window, watching familiar streets fade into distance. Each corner held a memory: Emily's favorite cafe, the park where she had walked with friends, the bookstore where she had spent hours browsing. Leaving the house felt like leaving the city itself, like severing ties with the places that had defined her life. The rented room. The taxi pulled up to a modest building, its facade worn, its windows streaked with age. I carried my suitcase inside, climbing the narrow staircase to the small room I had rented. The room was barely large enough for a bed, a dresser, and a narrow desk pushed against the wall. The wallpaper was peeling at the corners, faded from years of neglect. The radiator clanked noisily at night, as though mocking my attempts at sleep. It wasn't home. It was survival. I set my suitcase down, the sound echoing in the empty space. I sat on the bed, staring at the cracked ceiling, listening to the hum of the city outside. The muffled sounds of traffic, the occasional shout from the street below, the distant wail of sirens, all reminders that life went on, indifferent to my grief. The weight of loneliness. Loneliness is not just the absence of people. It is the absence of connection, of belonging, of being seen. In that small room, I felt invisible. The landlord was polite but distant. The neighbors kept to themselves, and Daniel's silence was louder than any words. I spoke to Emily often, whispering to her photo, writing letters I knew she would never read. "I miss you," I wrote. "I don't know how to live without you. Daniel has taken everything, but I still have you in my heart." The act of writing gave me a small measure of comfort, as if I were sending my grief into the universe, hoping it might reach her somehow. Memories that haunt. Memories haunted me, both sweet and painful. I remembered Emily as a child, running through the yard with ribbons in her hair, her laughter echoing like music. I remembered her teenage years, her determination, her dreams. I remembered her wedding day, the way she looked at Daniel with love in her eyes. And I remembered the hospital, the moment the doctor said she was gone, the way Daniel walked out without a tear. Each memory was a knife, cutting deeper into the wound that refused to heal. Flickers of resilience. Yet, beneath the grief, a quiet ember of resilience flickered. I didn't recognize it at first, but it was there, hidden beneath the weight of sorrow. It was in the way I forced myself to rise each morning, even when I wanted to stay in bed. It was in the way I made tea in her chipped mug, read her favorite book, walked through the park. Small acts, but acts of survival. It was in the way I whispered to her photo, refusing to let her memory fade. I realized then that though Daniel had taken the house, he could not take Emily from me. Her love remained, woven into the fabric of my being, a light that no cruelty could extinguish. Leaving Emily's house was not just about losing a place. It was about losing the illusion that I could hold on to her through walls and furniture, through photographs and books. It was about confronting the reality that she was gone, and that I had to find a way to live without her. But even in that small rented room, even in the silence of loneliness, I carried her with me. Her love remained, her memory endured, her spirit lingered. I whispered into the night, "I will carry you with me, Emily, always." And in that moment, I felt a flicker of peace, fragile but real. The rented room. Loneliness has a sound. It is the hum of a radiator in the dead of night, the muffled traffic outside a window, the creak of floorboards beneath your own solitary steps. When I moved into the rented room after leaving Emily's house, I discovered that loneliness could fill every corner, every silence, every breath. Arrival. The building was old, its facade worn, its windows streaked with age. The landlord, a man with kind eyes but little patience, handed me the key with a nod. "It's small," he said, "but it'll do." I climbed the narrow staircase, my suitcase dragging behind me. The hallway smelled faintly of dust and old paint, the walls lined with faded wallpaper peeling at the edges. When I opened the door to my room, I was met with a space barely large enough for a bed, a dresser, and a narrow desk pushed against the wall. The wallpaper was yellowed, the carpet threadbare. The radiator clanked noisily as though mocking my attempts at peace. It wasn't home. It was survival, settling in. I set my suitcase down, the sound echoing in the empty space. I unpacked slowly, placing my clothes in the dresser, my book on the desk, my mug on the nightstand. Each item felt like a lifeline, a fragment of Emily's presence carried into this new, unfamiliar place. I placed the photo of us on the desk, propping it against the wall. Her smile lit up the room, even in its faded gloom. I whispered, "We're here now, Emily. Just you and me." The radiator clanked again, the sound harsh against the silence. I sat on the bed, staring at the cracked ceiling, listening to the hum of the city outside. The muffled sounds of traffic, the occasional shout from the street below, the distant wail of sirens, all reminders that life went on, indifferent to my grief. That first night was unbearable. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind filled with memories of Emily. Her laughter, her voice, her presence. The silence pressed down on me, heavy and suffocating. I clutched her photo, whispering, "I miss you, darling. I don't know how to live without you." Tears streamed down my face, soaking the pillow. Sleep came only in fragments, broken by dreams of her, by the sound of the radiator, by the weight of loneliness. The routine. In the days that followed, I forced myself into small routines. I rose each morning, made tea in her chipped mug, read her favorite book, Persuasion, walked through the park. Small acts, but acts of survival. The room remained cold, both in temperature and in spirit. The radiator clanked, the wallpaper peeled, the carpet whispered of years gone by. But within that space, I carved out a semblance of life. I wrote letters to Emily, pouring my grief onto paper. "I miss you," I wrote. "Daniel has taken everything, but I still have you in my heart." The act of writing gave me a small measure of comfort, as if I were sending my sorrow into the universe, hoping it might reach her somehow. The neighbors kept to themselves, their doors closed, their voices muffled through the thin walls. Occasionally, I heard laughter, the sound of a television, the clatter of dishes. But no one knocked on my door, no one reached out. The landlord checked in once, asking if the radiator was working. I nodded, though its clanking was a constant reminder of the room's age. He smiled faintly, then left, his footsteps fading down the hall. I was alone. Loneliness is not just the absence of people. It is the absence of connection, of belonging, of being seen. In that small rented room, I felt invisible. The world outside carried on, indifferent to my grief, while I sat in silence, clutching memories of Emily. But even in the depths of sorrow, a quiet ember of resilience flickered. I didn't recognize it at first, but it was there, hidden beneath the weight of grief. It was in the way I rose each morning, refusing to let her memory fade. It was in the way I whispered to her photo, refusing to let silence erase her presence. The rented room was not home. It was survival. But within its walls, I carried Emily with me. Her love remained, her memory endured, her spirit lingered. I whispered into the night, "I will carry you with me, always." And in that moment, I felt a flicker of peace, fragile but real. Loneliness at 62. Loneliness is not a visitor, it is a tenant. It moves in quietly, unpacks its bags, and settles into every corner of your life. At 62, I had thought I understood solitude. I had lost my wife years earlier, and though Emily had filled that void with her love, I had known the ache of an empty bed, the silence of a house without laughter. But nothing prepared me for the loneliness that followed her death. The silence. The rented room was small, barely large enough for a bed and dresser. Its walls were thin, Its radiator clanked noisily. Its window overlooked a street that never seemed to sleep. Yet despite the sounds of the city outside, the silence inside was suffocating. I would sit on the bed, staring at the cracked ceiling, listening to the hum of traffic, the occasional shout from the street below. But none of it reached me. The silence was not about sound, it was about absence. The absence of Emily's voice, her laughter, her presence. I whispered to her photo each night, "I miss you, darling. I don't know how to go on without you." The words echoed in the room, unanswered, fading into the stillness. The weight of age. At 62, loneliness carried a different weight. It wasn't just about being alone, it was about the fear of time. I thought of the years ahead, the birthdays Emily would never celebrate, the milestones she would never reach. I thought of my own years, dwindling, each one marked by her absence. I felt old, not just in body but in spirit. My hands trembled when I held her photo. My knees ached when I walked through the park. My heart felt heavy with every breath. Loneliness pressed down on me, not just as grief, but as a reminder of mortality. The nights were the worst. Sleep came only in fragments, broken by dreams of Emily. I would see her running through the yard with ribbons in her hair, hear her laughter echoing like music, feel her hand in mine. Then I would wake, the room dark and empty, the silence pressing down. I would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to the radiator clank, whispering to her photo. "I miss you," I said. "I don't know how to live without you." Tears streamed down my face, soaking the pillow, until exhaustion finally pulled me into restless sleep. The days were filled with small routines: tea in her chipped mug, reading her favorite book Persuasion, walking through the park. Small acts, but acts of survival. I forced myself to rise each morning, to make tea, to read, to walk. Each act was a flicker of resilience, a refusal to let grief consume me entirely. But the weight of loneliness remained, pressing down with every step. The park became my refuge. I would walk slowly, my hands clasped behind my back, my eyes fixed on the trees. Children played, couples strolled, dogs barked. Life carried on, indifferent to my grief. I would sit on a bench, clutching Emily's photo, whispering to her, "I miss you, darling. I wish you were here." The wind rustled the leaves. The sun filtered through the branches, but the silence remained. Loneliness at 62 was not just about being alone. It was about the absence of connection, the absence of belonging, the absence of being seen. It was about the fear of time, the weight of mortality, the ache of grief. But even in the depths of sorrow, a quiet ember of resilience flickered. I didn't recognize it at first, but it was there, hidden beneath the weight of loneliness. It was in the way I rose each morning, refusing to let her memory fade. It was in the way I whispered to her photo, refusing to let silence erase her presence. Loneliness pressed down on me, heavy and suffocating. But beneath it, a quiet strength remained. Emily had left me more than memories, she had left me hope. I whispered into the night, "I will carry you with me, always." And in that moment, I felt a flicker of peace, fragile but real. Routine of survival. Grief strips life of its rhythm. Days blur into nights, nights into days, until time itself feels meaningless. After Emily's death, and after Daniel forced me from her home, I found myself adrift in a sea of silence. The rented room was not home, it was a shell, a place to exist rather than live. Yet, even in that emptiness, I discovered that survival required routine. Small acts, repeated daily, became the fragile scaffolding that held me upright. Morning rituals. Each morning, I rose early, though sleep had been restless. The radiator clanked noisily, its uneven rhythm a harsh alarm. I shuffled to the small kitchenette, where I kept Emily's chipped mug. It was the first thing I reached for every day. I boiled water, the kettle whistling softly, and poured tea into the mug. Holding it in my hands, I felt her presence. She had loved that mug, despite its imperfection. "It's got character," she used to say with a smile. Drinking from it became my way of keeping her close, of starting each day with a piece of her. I sat by the window, sipping slowly, watching the city stir to life. Cars honked, people hurried along the sidewalks, children laughed on their way to school. Life carried on, indifferent to my grief. But in that small ritual, I found a measure of peace. Reading Persuasion. After tea, I turned to her favorite book Persuasion by Jane Austen. I had taken it from her shelf, its margins filled with her handwriting, her thoughts spilling onto the pages. Reading it became another ritual, a way of hearing her voice. I traced her notes with my finger, imagining her laughter, her insights, her passion for words. Sometimes I read aloud, whispering the lines into the silence. "Dad," I imagined her saying, "isn't this beautiful?" The book was more than literature, it was a conversation with her, a bridge across the chasm of loss. Walks in the park. By midday, I forced myself outside. The park became my refuge, a place where I could breathe, where the weight of the rented room lifted slightly. I walked slowly, my hands clasped behind my back, my eyes fixed on the trees. Children played, couples strolled, dogs barked. Life carried on, vibrant and indifferent. I sat on a bench, clutching Emily's photo, whispering to her, "I miss you, darling. I wish you were here." The wind rustled the leaves, the sun filtered through the branches, and for a moment, I felt her presence. Writing letters. In the afternoons, I wrote letters to Emily. I poured my grief onto paper, my words a desperate attempt to reach her. "I miss you," I wrote. "Daniel has taken everything, but I still have you in my heart." I filled pages with memories, with reflections, with whispers of love. The act of writing gave me a small measure of comfort, as if I were sending my sorrow into the universe, hoping it might reach her somehow. I stacked the letters neatly on the desk, a growing testament to my grief. Evening rituals. Evenings were the hardest. The silence pressed down, heavy and suffocating. I lit a small candle, its flickering flame a fragile symbol of hope. I sat by the window, staring at the city lights, whispering to her photo. "I will carry you with me, always," I said. The words became a mantra, a promise, a lifeline. I read a few more pages of persuasion, sipped tea from her mug, and wrote another letter. Then I lay in bed, clutching her photo, whispering, "Good night, Emily." Sleep came only in fragments, broken by dreams of her, by the clank of the radiator, by the weight of loneliness. Routine did not erase grief. It did not heal the wound or silence the sorrow, but it gave me structure, a fragile scaffolding that held me upright. Each act, tea in her mug, reading her book, walking in the park, writing letters, was a flicker of resilience, a refusal to let grief consume me entirely. I realized then that survival is not about grand gestures. It is about small acts, repeated daily, that keep you moving forward. It is about finding meaning in the mundane, hope in the ordinary, love in the memory of what was lost. At 62, widowed and grieving, living in a small rented room, I discovered that routine was survival. It was not joy, not healing, not peace, but it was enough to keep me moving, enough to keep me breathing, enough to keep me carrying Emily with me. I whispered into the night, "I will carry you with me, always." And in that moment, I felt a flicker of peace, fragile but real. Memories that haunt. Grief is not linear. It does not move forward in neat steps, nor does it fade with time. It circles back, ambushes you in quiet moments, and drags you into the past when you least expect it. For me, the memories of Emily became both a sanctuary and a torment. They haunted me, filling my nights with dreams and my days with shadows. The childhood echoes. I often found myself drifting back to her childhood. I would see her running through the yard with ribbons in her hair, her laughter echoing like music. I remembered the way she would climb into my lap with a book, insisting that I read to her even when she already knew the words. One memory in particular haunted me. A summer afternoon when she had found a stray kitten in the garden. "Dad, we have to help him," she had said, her voice filled with determination. We took the kitten in, and from that day forward, Emily showed me what compassion truly meant. That memory brought me comfort, but it also cut deep. I thought of the woman she had become, filled with the same compassion, the same determination. And I thought of the life she had lost, the dreams she would never fulfill. The teenage years. Her teenage years were filled with ambition and stubbornness. She wanted independence, freedom, the chance to make her own choices. I worried, as fathers do, but I learned to trust her. She was strong, capable, wise beyond her years. I remembered late nights at the kitchen table, her textbooks spread out, her pen moving furiously across the pages. "Dad," she would say, "I want to do something that matters." Those words haunted me. She had wanted to change the world, to make it kinder, brighter, better. And now, she was gone, her dreams silenced by illness. The wedding day. Her wedding day was another memory that haunted me. She looked radiant in her white dress, her eyes filled with love as she gazed at Daniel. I gave her away with trembling hands, whispering, "Take care of her." I believed he would. I believed he loved her. But standing at her grave, watching him remain unmoved, I realized how wrong I had been. That realization haunted me, filling me with anger and sorrow. The hospital memories were the most painful. The sterile smell of antiseptic, the hum of machines, the sight of her pale skin against the white sheets. I remembered holding her hand, whispering, "I'm here, sweetheart. Dad's right here." Her eyes had fluttered open, her voice weak. "Dad?" She had whispered, "Don't cry." Those words haunted me every night. I had cried anyway, unable to stop the tears. I had begged the universe to take me instead, to spare her. But the universe was deaf that day. I remembered the doctor's words, "I'm sorry, Mr. Carter. She's gone." I remembered the way Daniel walked out without a tear, leaving me alone with her lifeless body. Those memories replayed endlessly, each time cutting deeper. The funeral haunted me too. The sight of her coffin, the sound of earth hitting wood, the silence of Daniel's detachment. I remembered standing at the podium, my voice trembling as I said, "Emily was my everything." I remembered dropping a rose onto her coffin, whispering, "Goodbye, my darling." Those moments replayed in my mind, each one a reminder of finality. The house. Packing my belongings from Emily's house haunted me. Touching her dresses, her books, her mug. Choosing what to take, what to leave behind. Each item was a memory, a fragment of her life, a piece of her love. I remembered closing the closet door gently, as if sealing away a part of her. I remembered zipping the suitcase shut, the sound final, like closing a chapter of my life. Those acts haunted me, filling me with sorrow. Memories are both a gift and a burden. They keep her alive in my heart, but they also remind me of what I have lost. They haunt me, filling my nights with dreams and my days with shadows. But even in the haunting, there is love. Each memory is a testament to the bond we shared, to the joy she brought into my life, to the light she carried into the world. I realized then that grief is not about forgetting. It is about carrying memories, even when they haunt you. It is about finding strength in the echoes of the past, hope in the shadows of sorrow, love in the fragments of what was lost. Memories of Emily haunt me, but they also sustain me. They are the threads that hold me together, even as grief threatens to tear me apart. She was my daughter, my joy, my light. And though she is gone, her love remains. I whispered into the night, "I will carry you with me, always." And in that moment, I felt a flicker of peace, fragile but real. Flickers of resilience. Grief is a heavy cloak, but even the heaviest fabric can fray at the edges. In the weeks after Emily's death, I lived beneath that cloak, suffocated by sorrow, weighed down by loneliness. Yet, slowly, almost imperceptibly, flickers of resilience began to appear. They were small at first, barely noticeable, but they carried within them the promise of survival. Rising each morning. The first flicker was simply rising each morning. At 62, widowed and grieving, living in a rented room, I had every reason to stay in bed, to let the hours slip away unnoticed. But I forced myself to rise, to place my feet on the cold floor, to begin the day. It wasn't strength, not at first. It was obligation, routine, survival. But with each morning, I realized that rising was an act of defiance. It was a refusal to let grief consume me entirely. It was a whisper of resilience, a reminder that I was still alive. Tea in her mug. Another flicker came in the form of tea. Each morning, I boiled water, poured it into Emily's chipped mug, and held it in my hands. The mug was imperfect, its rim chipped, its surface worn. But it was hers, and drinking from it became my way of keeping her close. The warmth of the tea seeped into my hands, into my heart. It was a small act, but it carried meaning. It was a ritual of love, a daily reminder that Emily's presence lingered in the ordinary. Walks in the park. The park became my refuge. I walked slowly, my hands clasped behind my back, my eyes fixed on the trees. Children played, couples strolled, dogs barked. Life carried on, vibrant and indifferent. At first, the sight of life continuing without Emily filled me with anger. How could the world move on when she was gone? But over time, I began to see the park differently. The laughter of children, the rustle of leaves, the warmth of the sun. These were not reminders of absence, but of endurance. I sat on a bench, clutching Emily's photo, whispering to her, "I miss you, darling. I wish you were here." The wind rustled the leaves, the sun filtered through the branches, and for a moment, I felt her presence. Letters to Emily. Writing letters to Emily became another flicker of resilience. I poured my grief onto paper, my words a desperate attempt to reach her. "I miss you," I wrote. "Daniel has taken everything, but I still have you in my heart." The act of writing gave me a small measure of comfort, as if I were sending my sorrow into the universe, hoping it might reach her somehow. The letters stacked up on my desk, a growing testament to my love, my grief, my survival. Acts of kindness. Resilience also appeared in the kindness of others. Mrs. Thompson visited one afternoon with a basket of muffins. "She was a bright light," she said softly, "and you were her anchor. She loved you dearly." Her words reminded me that I was not entirely alone. Emily's love had rippled through the world, touching lives beyond mine. And those lives reached back, offering comfort, offering connection. Flickers of resilience are not grand gestures. They are small acts, repeated daily, that keep you moving forward. Rising each morning, drinking tea from her mug, walking in the park, writing letters, accepting kindness. Each act was a thread, weaving together a fragile fabric of survival. I realized then that resilience is not about erasing grief. It is about carrying it, living with it, finding strength within it. It is about discovering that even in the depths of sorrow, life can endure. At 62, widowed and grieving, living in a small rented room, I discovered that resilience was possible. It was not joy, not healing, not peace, but it was enough to keep me moving, enough to keep me breathing, enough to keep me carrying Emily with me. I whispered into the night, "I will carry you with me, always." And in that moment, I felt a flicker of peace, fragile but real. A visit from Mrs. Thompson. Grief isolates. It builds walls around you, convincing you that no one can understand the depth of your sorrow. But sometimes, a knock at the door breaks through that isolation, reminding you that love and memory can still reach across the silence. For me, that knock came from Mrs. Thompson. The knock. It was a gray afternoon, the kind where the sky hangs low and the air feels heavy. I sat by the window of my rented room, clutching Emily's photo, whispering to her, as I often did. The radiator clanked noisily, the sound filling the silence. Then came the knock, soft, hesitant, but insistent. I rose slowly, my knees aching, my heart heavy. When I opened the door, there she was, Mrs. Thompson, our old neighbor from Emily's childhood. Her eyes were kind, her smile gentle, though tinged with sorrow. "James," she said softly, "I thought I'd come by. I brought you something." The basket. She held a basket filled with muffins, their scent warm and comforting. "I baked these this morning," she explained. "I thought you might need them." I accepted the basket with trembling hands, my voice breaking. "Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. You didn't have to." She smiled faintly. "I wanted to. Emily was like a granddaughter to me. I miss her too." Her words pierced the silence, filling the room with connection. For the first time in weeks, I felt seen, understood. Sitting together. We sat together at the small table, the muffins between us. I poured tea into Emily's chipped mug, offering Mrs. Thompson another cup. She accepted, her hands steady, her eyes filled with compassion. We spoke of Emily, her childhood, her laughter, her kindness. Mrs. Thompson recalled the afternoons when Emily would play in the yard, chasing butterflies, her hair flying in the wind. "She was always smiling," she said softly, "always bringing joy." I nodded, tears streaming down my face. She was my everything. Shared memories. Mrs. Thompson shared stories I had forgotten, moments that brought both laughter and tears. She remembered Emily helping her carry groceries, insisting on lifting the heavy bags despite her small frame. She remembered Emily planting tulips in the garden, her hands covered in dirt, her face radiant with pride. "She had such a generous heart," Mrs. Thompson said, "always thinking of others." Her words painted a portrait of Emily, a mosaic of love and light. Each story was a thread, weaving together the fabric of her memory, the comfort of presence. It wasn't just the stories that comforted me, it was Mrs. Thompson's presence. Sitting across from me, her eyes filled with compassion, her voice gentle, she reminded me that grief did not have to be borne alone. For weeks, I had felt invisible, isolated in my rented room. But in that moment, I realized that connection was still possible, that love could still reach across the silence. After she left, I sat quietly, the basket of muffins on the table, the scent lingering in the air. I realized then that resilience is not just about routines or rituals. It is also about connection, about the way love and memory ripple through the world, touching lives beyond our own. Mrs. Thompson's visit was a flicker of resilience, a reminder that I was not entirely alone. Emily's love had touched her life, and through her, it touched mine again. Grief isolates, but love connects. Mrs. Thompson's visit reminded me that Emily's memory lived not just in me, but in others, that her light had touched many lives, and that those lives could reach back, offering comfort, offering connection. I whispered into the night, "Thank you, Emily, for everything." And in that moment, I felt a flicker of peace, fragile but real. The letters to Emily. Grief demands expression. It cannot remain silent forever. It must find a voice, even if that voice trembles. For me, that voice became the letters I wrote to Emily. Each page was a confession, a prayer, a plea. Each word carried the weight of sorrow, the echo of love, the ache of absence. The first letter came on a sleepless night. I sat at the desk in my rented room, the radiator clanking noisily, the city humming outside. I held a pen in my hand, staring at the blank page. My heart was heavy, my mind filled with memories. I began simply, "My darling Emily, I miss you." The words spilled onto the page, raw and unfiltered. I wrote of the hospital, of the moment the doctor said she was gone, of the way Daniel walked out without a tear. I wrote of the funeral, of the coffin, of the rose I dropped onto the polished wood. I wrote of the silence that followed, the emptiness that consumed me. When I finished, I folded the letter neatly, placing it on the desk. It was not meant to be sent, it was meant to be heard, even if only by the universe. The ritual. The letters became a ritual. Each day, I sat at the desk, pen in hand, paper before me. I wrote to Emily as if she were still here, as if she could read my words, as if she could answer. I wrote of my routine's tea in her chipped mug, reading Persuasion, walking in the park. I wrote of the loneliness that pressed down, the silence that suffocated, the memories that haunted. I wrote of the flickers of resilience, the small acts that kept me moving forward. Each letter was a lifeline, a way of carrying her with me. The content. Some letters were filled with sorrow, my words heavy with grief. "I don't know how to live without you," I wrote. "The world feels empty, hollow, broken." Others were filled with memories, my words painting portraits of her life. "I remember the day you found the kitten in the garden," I wrote. "You insisted we help him, your heart so full of compassion." And some were filled with love, my words whispering devotion. "You were my everything," I wrote. "I will carry you with me, always." The letters stacked up on the desk, a growing testament to my grief. Each page was a fragment of my soul, each word a thread in the fabric of memory. I kept them neatly arranged, tied with a ribbon. They became a book of sorrow, a diary of love, a record of survival. Sometimes I reread them, my tears falling onto the pages. Sometimes I simply touched them, feeling their weight, their presence. The burden. But the letters were also a burden. Each word reminded me of her absence, each page a reminder that she was gone. They kept her close, but they also kept the wound open. I wondered if I was clinging too tightly, if the letters were preventing me from healing. But I could not stop. Writing was the only way I knew to survive. The letters to Emily were both a gift and a curse. They gave me a voice, a way to express grief, a way to carry her with me. But they also haunted me, reminding me of what I had lost, of what I could never regain. I realized then that grief is not about forgetting. It is about carrying memories, even when they burden you. It is about finding strength in the act of remembrance, hope in the act of survival, love in the act of writing. The letters to Emily are my lifeline. They are the threads that hold me together, even as grief threatens to tear me apart. They are the voice of my sorrow, the echo of my love, the whisper of my resilience. I whispered into the night, "I will carry you with me, always." And in that moment, I felt a flicker of peace, fragile but real. The diary of survival. Grief has no map, no compass, no clear direction. It leaves you wandering through shadows, searching for light that may never come. In the weeks after Emily's death, I found myself drowning in silence, my letters to her piling up on the desk. But then, almost without realizing it, I began something new. I began a diary. The first entry. It started one evening when the radiator clanked louder than usual, its uneven rhythm filling the room. I sat at the desk, pen in hand, staring at the stack of letters I had written to Emily. They were filled with love, sorrow, memory, but they were all addressed to her, as if she might still read them. That night, I turned the page and wrote something different. I wrote not to Emily, but to myself. This is the first day I admit I am surviving. The words startled me. They were not about her absence, but about my endurance. They were not about loss, but about the fragile act of continuing. The purpose. The diary became a place where I could speak honestly, without the weight of addressing Emily directly. It was not a letter, not a plea, not a prayer. It was a record, a testament to survival. I wrote of my routines, tea in her chipped mug, reading Persuasion, walking in the park. I wrote of the loneliness that pressed down, the silence that suffocated, the memories that haunted. I wrote of the flickers of resilience, the small acts that kept me moving forward. Each entry was a thread, weaving together the fabric of survival. The burden. But the diary was also a burden. Each word reminded me of her absence, each page a reminder that she was gone. Writing forced me to confront grief, to shape it into sentences, to see it in ink. There were nights when I closed the diary, unable to continue. Nights when the weight of words was too heavy, when silence felt safer. But I always returned, because survival demanded expression. The rhythm. Over time, the diary took on a rhythm. Each morning, I wrote a few lines about the day ahead. Each evening, I wrote a reflection on what had passed. Some entries were brief, a single sentence. I miss her. Others were long, filled with memories, reflections, confessions. Together, they formed a mosaic of grief and resilience, a record of survival at 62. The content. The diary was not just about sorrow. It was also about resilience, about the small acts that kept me moving forward. I wrote of Mrs. Thompson's visit, her basket of muffins, her gentle words. I wrote of the kindness of strangers, the fleeting moments of connection. I wrote of the park, the laughter of children, the rustle of leaves. I wrote of the letters to Emily, the way they kept her close, the way they haunted me. I wrote of the routines that sustained me, the rituals that gave me structure. Each entry was a flicker of resilience, a reminder that survival was possible. The reflection. The diary became more than a record, it became a mirror. It showed me the depth of my grief, but also the strength of my endurance. It revealed the weight of loneliness, but also the flickers of resilience. I realized then that survival is not about erasing grief. It is about carrying it, living with it, finding strength within it. It is about discovering that even in the depths of sorrow, life can endure. The diary of survival is my lifeline. It is the voice of my grief, the echo of my resilience, the whisper of my endurance. It is the record of a man at 62, widowed and grieving, living in a small rented room, carrying the memory of his daughter. I whispered into the night, "I will carry you with me, always." And in that moment, I felt a flicker of peace, fragile but real. The weight of silence. Silence is not empty. It is heavy, pressing, suffocating. In the weeks after Emily's death, silence became my constant companion. It filled the rented room, seeped into the cracks of the walls, lingered in the air like smoke. It was not the silence of peace, it was the silence of absence. The rented room. The room was small, its wallpaper peeling, its radiator clanking noisily. Yet despite the sounds of the city outside, the hum of traffic, the occasional shout from the street below, the silence inside was suffocating. I sat on the bed, clutching Emily's photo, whispering to her, as I often did. "I miss you, darling," I said softly. But the silence answered back, heavy and unyielding. The photo did not speak, the walls did not echo, the air did not carry her voice. Silence pressed down, reminding me of her absence, reminding me that she was gone. The absence of voice. Emily's voice had filled my life. Her laughter, her words, her songs. She had a way of speaking that made even the simplest sentence feel alive. Now, that voice was gone, replaced by silence. I remembered the mornings when she would call me Dad, her voice bright and cheerful. I remembered the evenings when we would talk for hours, her words flowing easily, her laughter echoing. Now, I whispered into the silence, hoping for an answer that never came. The nights were the worst. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the radiator clank. The silence pressed down, heavy and suffocating. I dreamed of Emily, her laughter filling the air, her voice calling my name. But when I woke, the room was silent, the photo still, the air heavy. I whispered, "Good night, Emily," but the silence remained. The days were filled with small routines: tea in her chipped mug, reading Persuasion, walking in the park. Each act was a flicker of resilience, a refusal to let grief consume me entirely. But even in those routines, silence lingered. The mug did not echo her laughter. The book did not carry her voice. The park did not bring her back. Silence followed me, pressing down, reminding me of her absence. The letters I wrote to Emily were filled with words, but even they were swallowed by silence. I poured my grief onto paper, my words a desperate attempt to reach her. But the letters remained unanswered, their silence heavy. I stacked them neatly on the desk, a growing testament to my sorrow. Each page was a voice, but each page was also silence. Silence is not just the absence of sound. It is the presence of absence. It is the weight of what is missing, the echo of what is gone, the reminder of what will never return. But even in the silence, a quiet ember of resilience flickered. I realized that silence could also be a teacher. It forced me to listen, to reflect, to carry Emily within me. It reminded me that grief is not about forgetting, it is about carrying memories, even when they are silent. The weight of silence is heavy, but it is also a reminder of love. Emily's voice may be gone, but her memory remains. Her laughter may be silent, but it echoes in my heart. I whispered into the night, "I will carry you with me, always." And in that moment, I felt a flicker of peace, fragile but real. The echoes of memory. Grief does not end with silence. It reverberates, echoing through the smallest details of life. In the weeks after Emily's death, I discovered that memory had a sound, a rhythm, a presence that refused to fade. It was in the creak of the floorboards, the whistle of the kettle, the rustle of leaves in the park. Everywhere I turned, echoes of Emily followed me. The whistle of the kettle. Each morning, I boiled water for tea in her chipped mug. The kettle whistled softly, its sound filling the rented room. But to me, it was more than a whistle, it was an echo. I remembered the mornings when Emily would hum along with the kettle, her voice blending with its rhythm. "Dad," she would say, smiling, "it's our morning symphony." Now, the whistle carried her absence. It was a sound that reminded me of what I had lost, but also of the joy we had shared. The pages of Persuasion. Reading her favorite book became another echo. Each page carried her handwriting, her notes spilling into the margins. I traced her words with my finger, hearing her voice in my mind. "Isn't this beautiful?" she had once said, her eyes bright with passion. The book was more than literature, it was a conversation, a dialogue across time. Each note was an echo of her voice, a reminder of her presence. The park was filled with echoes. The laughter of children reminded me of her childhood, her ribbons flying in the wind as she chased butterflies. The rustle of leaves reminded me of the afternoons we had spent walking together, her hand in mine, her voice filled with dreams. I sat on a bench, clutching her photo, whispering to her, "I miss you, darling. I wish you were here." The wind carried my words, rustling the leaves, echoing her memory. The apartment, even the rented room, carried echoes. The creak of the floorboards reminded me of the house we had shared, the sound of her footsteps filling the halls. The hum of the radiator reminded me of winter evenings, her laughter warming the air. The room was silent, but the echoes remained. They filled the space, reminding me that memory lingers even in absence. The letters I wrote to Emily became echoes of my own voice. Each word carried my grief, my love, my survival. I stacked them neatly on the desk, their presence heavy, their silence loud. Sometimes I reread them, hearing my own voice echo back. Sometimes I simply touch them, feeling their weight, their presence. Echoes of memory are both a gift and a burden. They keep her alive in my heart, but they also remind me of what I have lost. They haunt me, filling my nights with dreams and my days with shadows. But even in the haunting, there is love. Each echo is a testament to the bond we shared, to the joy she brought into my life, to the light she carried into the world. I realized then that grief is not about silence, it is about echoes. It is about carrying memories, even when they reverberate painfully. It is about finding strength in the sound of the past, hope in the rhythm of memory, love in the echoes of what was lost. The echoes of memory are my lifeline. They are the threads that hold me together, even as grief threatens to tear me apart. They are the voice of my sorrow, the echo of my love, the whisper of my resilience. I whispered into the night, "I will carry you with me, always." And in that moment, I felt a flicker of peace, fragile but real. The fragile comfort of routine. Grief does not vanish. It lingers, reshaping itself into silence, into memory, into routine. In the months after Emily's death, I discovered that survival was not about grand gestures or sudden healing. It was about the fragile comfort of routine, the small acts that gave shape to my days, the rituals that kept me moving forward, the habits that reminded me I was still alive. The morning ritual. Each morning, I rose early, though sleep had been restless. I boiled water, poured tea into Emily's chipped mug, and sat by the window. The whistle of the kettle, the warmth of the mug, the hum of the city outside all became part of a rhythm that sustained me. It was not joy, not healing, not peace, but it was comfort, fragile and fleeting. It was enough to carry me through the day. The walks. By midday, I walked through the park. The laughter of children, the rustle of leaves, the warmth of the sun all reminded me of life's endurance. I sat on a bench, clutching Emily's photo, whispering to her, "I miss you, darling. I wish you were here." The wind carried my words, rustling the leaves, echoing her memory. The park became a refuge, a place where grief softened, where routine offered comfort. The letters and diary. Afternoons were filled with writing letters to Emily, entries in my diary. Each word was a lifeline, a way of carrying her with me, a way of shaping grief into survival. The letters were filled with love, sorrow, memory. The diary was filled with resilience, reflection, endurance. Together, they became a record of survival, a testament to the fragile comfort of routine. The evenings. Evenings were the hardest. The silence pressed down, heavy and suffocating. I lit a candle, its flickering flame a fragile symbol of hope. I read a few pages of persuasion, sipped tea from her mug, wrote another letter. Then I lay in bed, clutching her photo, whispering, "Good night, Emily." Sleep came only in fragments, broken by dreams of her, by the clank of the radiator, by the weight of loneliness. But even in those fragments, routine offered comfort. Routine did not erase grief. It did not heal the wound or silence the sorrow, but it gave me structure, a fragile scaffolding that held me upright. Each act, tea in her mug, reading her book, walking in the park, writing letters was a flicker of resilience, a refusal to let grief consume me entirely. I realized then that survival is not about forgetting. It is about carrying memories, even when they burden you. It is about finding strength in the ordinary, hope in the mundane, love in the routine. A message to everyone out there who carries grief, who feels the weight of silence, who wonders how to survive. Know this routine can be your refuge. Small acts, repeated daily, can hold you upright when sorrow threatens to crush you. Drink from the mug that reminds you of love. Walk through the park that whispers of endurance. Write the words that carry your memories. Light the candle that flickers with hope. Grief will not vanish, but love remains. And love, carried in routine, becomes resilience. At 62, widowed and grieving, living in a small rented room, I discovered that survival was possible. It was not joy, not healing, not peace, but it was enough to keep me moving, enough to keep me breathing, enough to keep me carrying Emily with me. I whispered into the night, "I will carry you with me, always." And in that moment, I felt a flicker of peace, fragile but real. Epilogue. Beyond the silence. Grief is a journey without a map. It does not end with the closing of a chapter, nor with the final word written in a diary. It lingers, reshaping itself into silence, into memory, into routine. Yet within that lingering, I have discovered something unexpected: resilience. Emily's absence will always ache. Her laughter will always echo in my heart. Her voice will always whisper in my memory. But I have learned that love does not vanish with death. It endures, carried forward in the small acts of living, in the fragile comfort of routine, in the quiet strength of remembrance. To those who walk through grief, know this: survival is not about forgetting. It is about carrying love with you, even when it hurts. It is about rising each morning, even when the weight feels unbearable. It is about finding meaning in the ordinary, hope in the mundane, strength in the silence. My story ends here, but the lesson remains. Love is stronger than absence. Memory is louder than silence. And resilience, though fragile, is enough to carry us forward. I whisper into the night, as I always do. I will carry you with me, always. And in that whisper, I find peace. The end of story. This is the end of my story, a story of grief, of resilience, of love carried forward. A story of fragile routines that sustain survival, of echoes that linger, of memories that endure. Emily is gone, but her love remains. And I, James Carter, will carry her with me, always. This isn't just a story, it's a stand. If it stayed with you, share your thoughts below and help carry it forward. Some stories ask to be witnessed, not explained. Thank you for being here. Until next time, take care of yourself.